Welcome back to the High Growth Podcast, where cannabis founders and industry insiders tell all. I'm Chelsea, your host today, along with my colleague Dustin, and we're here with Daniel from Green Growth CPAs. Green Growth CPA is a leading national accounting and advisory firm helping companies identify and apply tax and business strategies to increase cash flow, all while staying in full compliance. Welcome, Daniel. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. We're stoked to have you. So why don't you start by telling us your kind of your origin story and how Green Growth kind of got into the cannabis industry?
Sure. So I joined Green Growth um, about 5 years after they started. I originally started my career in Big Four accounting. So I was first with KPMG for a couple of years, went to a smaller mid-sized firm, and then went into private industry after that. And in my time in private industry, we were doing a lot of real estate syndication work. One of the projects we had was a cannabis operation. I was out here in the greater Los Angeles area. And as we're going through the process of, uh, renting out the space and doing all the real estate components to it, I started getting a little more interested in this cannabis space and I saw there was a big need for it for accountants. A lot of it is because of all the tax rules that are unfavorable against them. And it's very hard to survive unless you know some of the rules, some of the tricks, as you can say. So that's when I started doing some research and just went back to self-study on the cannabis industry for accounting. And then at the same time, I came across a couple individuals from Green Growth CPAs, and they had a position open as a manager. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to come in and do some good public accounting work, but also help these cannabis companies. That was about
Awesome.
5-6 years ago. Since then, company's grown quite a bit. We've expanded in different regions. We're predominantly in California, Oklahoma, Colorado. But then as new markets opened up, we started venturing there. So now we have presence in pretty much every legal state.
Nice. Congrats. That's quite some high growth y'all have achieved in the past 5 or so years. What is, one piece of advice that you would give to a business entering the industry?
Definitely, you want to be well funded to start. There's no such thing as too much capital. So one of the biggest issues I see with clients, because we've had quite a bit of churn as well with clients, and the churn was never because of bad service. It was just because they weren't well funded in the beginning, and then it was a recipe for disaster. They ran out of money pretty quick, and I feel like if they had better capital to start, they could have withstand some of those early storms and became a profitable company. So definitely, you need to raise a good amount of money. It obviously depends on what vertical you're in and which state, because every state has different licensing costs. You need to have a very good business plan. Business plans are key here. We work with a couple different business plan providers who, they refer business to us, and usually those ones are pretty good clients because they've been through the process, right? They
Yeah.
put together a good plan for them, and then we know that they're going to be successful just based on how much money they have and what their ideas are. So capital, I think, is number one, and then if you're in a partnership, it's got to be a good partnership. We've had clients that got into lawsuits with each other over small disputes, and they spent their money fighting each other instead of putting that money into the business, and then things just tend to fall apart, and then they end up selling the company for pennies on a dollar. So good partnership and good funding is the key to start.
All right. Good partnership, good funding. And from the CPA side, is there anything they kind of need to know about how they should set up their business to start?
Absolutely. Yeah. Entity structure is really important in cannabis industry. I would say for a dispensary or a delivery, anything retail related, it's 100% they should be a C Corp. It has just so many advantages for them. It starts with the legal protection because retail is the one that's most scrutinized by the IRS. And, there have been situations where people were audited and documentation wasn't put together correctly, and they got hit with add backs on some of those taxes. And in some cases, it could even be gross negligent penalties. And if that's to happen, you don't want IRS are coming after the individual's personal assets. So the buck stops at the C Corp level. Even some of the clients that have gone under that we dealt with, because they were in the C Corp vesting, they were easily able to walk away from the operation. It might have gone into receivership, but no one can touch any of their personal assets. It was just, a business that went wrong and they've moved on with their lives. So we never
Right.
want to put our clients in a position where if things don't go the way they want, that some of their other businesses, other things that they've worked so hard over the years can just go completely to waste. There's a myth about C Corps being the worst tax entities because they have this concept of double taxation. But really, the double taxation is not that much because since the Trump's first administration, the C Corp rate dropped from 35% to 21%. So that's the first level of tax. And then the dividend tax, if owners were to take additional money, that's only at 15, in some cases 20%, depending on their income level. So when you add those two taxes together, it's pretty much the same as a one-time ordinary income tax. It's plus or minus maybe 2 or 3%, depending on where they're at. It's not really a factor, but there is a myth though that like, oh, we're going to get taxed twice. It doesn't make sense. And also in the 5-year plan of getting a dispensary and potentially selling it, you can structure it where you don't take dividends the first couple of years. You put whatever money you put in, you can take that back out as a loan and you'll have minimal dividends throughout that process. And that way it's only going to be taxed one time. And then obviously there's other things that come with it. It's just easier to deal with the, if you have multiple owners,
Mm.
you don't have to deal with different timelines of tax returns because some people want to extend, some people don't. And then when
Right.
you extend, they got to do their own personals on extension too. And then if you ever want to go back and amend something, they got to amend their personal. So it becomes a pretty complex situation. But with the C Corp, it's just one tax return. You deal with that and you can be on that tax returns timeline. And I guess the last thing I'd say about all this, and it's the biggest thing, with C Corps, there's a huge capital gain exemption if you keep the corporation for 5 years. And what that means is that if you sell the company and you don't sell the assets, but it's an actual stock sale. So you sell so-and-so Inc. to another party. If there's a capital gain of 15 million or less, that would be completely wiped away if you were to keep the C Corp for 5 years. So it's a huge tax advantage for anyone who's looking to get in, make some money, build it up, and then maybe sell it to a bigger operator.
Nice. Okay, so have a plan, have a good partner, get yourself a C Corp, make sure to be in it for 5 years at least to get those benefits. What does Green Growth offer that no one else does?
So I'd say for us, a boutique style service, but we charge very good rates. So you're going to get very good quality. You're going to get a lot of hand holding, get people who are of high level managers, senior managers working on specific clients, but the price is going to be very affordable. It's not going to be as cheap as some of these people who just started doing cannabis a couple years ago in a local state, because we are a regional firm, but it's not going to be anywhere close to the prices that some of the big firms are charging for this kind of service. We have a good model based on our outsourcing. We have some teams overseas who are very well trained, will give you great level service, but at a fraction of the price. So we're able to keep our prices down. Therefore, we're able to keep our costs down. So we're able to keep our prices very favorable. I
Which is
think
important considering how much capital cannabis companies need, right, to end up being successful. So that's great.
absolutely. And then another thing I'll say about us is that we are very dedicated to the cannabis niche. So some other firms, they might have, one particular cannabis division, but we are predominantly cannabis firms. So we're constantly doing research on what's happening in the industry, by region, and we're able to give that insight to our clients. Whereas others are they understand the work and they do the work. It's more transactional with them. For us, it's more personal. We're able to talk to the clients consistently, give them new updates. And then with that information, we're able to help them pivot if things need to be changed.
That's great. So that said, what's your favorite part about being in the cannabis industry?
I mean, I love the client interaction. I love talking to operators and seeing their story. A lot of them, they were doing some of this back in the day when things were a little bit more in the gray area.
Mm-hmm.
and they're now teaming up with other people who have capital. And it's interesting because they used to do things a different way where there wasn't as much paper trail, there wasn't as much organization, but now they're at a point where they want to be organized, they want to do things the right way. And I just feel good giving them that structure. It's something that's just like, it legitimizes their work and their efforts. And I love seeing the journey of seeing them, start off small and then do well, open a second store, open a third store, talk to me about plans for expansion, what they got to do. And then it's a gratifying feeling that I work with a client for 3, 4 years and then I see the growth that they've gone through. I feel like I had a hand in that.
Yeah, that's great. So seeing growth in others, how about green growth? How are you guys growing your business?
So we've grown in many ways. Predominantly, we were doing a lot of content marketing. So it was stuff that we post on our YouTube channel and blogs on our website. But we've done some other things now too. We've been very active on LinkedIn. We've been going to a lot of different cannabis events. We try to go to at least 6 to 8 per year, across the nation. We've hired some more sales guys that are in different regions so that they can attend those events and also network, within the associations of those industries, those states. And yeah, we're still working on our SEO and potentially using some AI functions to help, get us better rankings.
Nice. So let's see. We talked about your favorite part. We talked about how you're growing your business. What about pain points? What's your biggest pain point you guys are experiencing right now?
So internally, I think we were able to create some leads that we can reach out to different clients, but a lot of those so-called cold calls, they haven't been very effective for us. And I don't know if we have to change our research tools or maybe, and I think a lot of it is maybe because a lot of times we're trying to reach clients, we're not getting the right numbers, we're not getting the right
Mm,
people.
yeah,
It might be the store as opposed to the actual decision maker. And a lot of times when that happens, they just treat it as a solicitation and it doesn't really get anywhere.
right.
So that's been kind of a struggle for us because we do spend quite a bit of time on that research, and so far it hasn't really yielded any returns. So we're trying to fine tune that, and there has been a little frustration there. And also, I think we've had steady growth, but it hasn't been exponential. I feel like there's a huge market in all these different states that we're going after, and even though we're getting some clients, we're not getting that huge market share that we're hoping. So I just feel like there's probably other ways to go about it, but so far it's been trial and error for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard kind of similar pain points across different types of service providers within the industry as well. Okay, so starting to kind of look back over all of that and look ahead, what do you hope to see in the future of the industry overall?
Well, I hope that some of these newer states start operating. I know there's been some talk about Delaware, Rhode Island. I think Washington D.C. is like almost up and running fully, and we've been very close with the Minnesota market too. They have issued a bunch of licenses, and they should be operating. Some have already started, and some are underway. I think they're in the build out stages. But I think once all these different states are operating and doing well, there might be some stuff in legislation that would help ease the burden on some of these taxes, whether
Mm,
it's getting rid of 280E completely or descheduling cannabis as a Schedule 3 drug. Those are things that are going to be very helpful for our clients because with that, it's more money in their pocket and we could help them navigate with that money, what to do with it.
absolutely. So anything you want to leave our listeners with? One last plug, anything you want to say? Are you headed to MJ BizCon next week?
I'll be in MJ BizCon. I'll be there for a couple days, sponsoring a lawyer event, and I'll be at some of the after parties. I think I'll go to a trade show one of the days. But yeah, I guess all I can say is that we've been around for 11 years. If you're a cannabis operator that's looking for some sort of accounting advice or tax return filings or just you know monthly controller or CFO level service, there's a lot of things that we could do to benefit you. I've seen it. I've been there for 6 years. I've seen the growth. I've seen people who were very thankful for our service, and I think we can definitely serve that purpose for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Daniel. Wishing you all high growth in the future.
Thank you.